or certain times a week, and they have a good time together, a good time seeing each other, and it turns into a closed community. Let me illustrate by a story. There was a church that called me to be a minister, and when I came up and preached on a Thursday night, several sisters came to me and brothers came and said, boy, if we can get a guy like you, this church will really grow. The Lord blessed us. When I came to that church, in less than 3 months, we baptized 29 people, and 90% were men between the ages of 18 and 29. And so all these men attracted all these women. The next thing you know, the church was... And those same people came to me and said, if you keep bringing all these kind of people in here, I'm leaving because I don't know anybody here anymore. Did you hear what I said, folks? They basically were telling me that we don't really want this church to grow from this community. What we wanted was our grandsons and our nieces and nephews and our sons and daughters who left the church to come back. All right? Or who hadn't gotten baptized to be baptized. A closed community. We only wanted people like us. You're baptizing drug addicts, ex-prostitutes. You're baptizing people who wear scanty clothes. You're baptizing people that we don't believe the Lord wants because we don't want them. That's how men have redefined church, and that's why the church has lost its effectiveness, because the church of today is not what Jesus had in mind. Amen. The church, according to Matthew 16:18, was called out by Jesus. Called out with the purpose of war against the stronghold and the kingdom of Satan. Not for any of those other reasons. Never a place, but always a people, a warlike people, the most aggressive and militant people on this earth is the church. Wow. You can't tell that. All right? I'll be home in a minute, folks. You know, the background to this is found in Genesis chapter 1. You see, the Old Testament, you can say this with me. Okay, the Old Testament is a revelation of human need. The New Testament is a revelation of divine supply. Shadows in the Old Testament, substance in the New Testament. Hebrews 10 verse 1. All right? Mystery in the Old Testament, Ephesians 3 verses 2 through 5. Revelation, New Testament. You see that? All right? Old Testament, New Testament concealed, New Testament, Old Testament revealed. You've heard that before, I'm sure. Folks, Old Testament, Garden of Eden. Man created in the image and likeness of God. Created by God. Created for God. Created like God. Amen. In the image of God. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, birds of the air. I was designed to be king. Wife gets upset with me, says some things. I look at her and say, honey, if you knew what I knew about me, you'd fall on your knees. Your opinion is that I'm stupid, but God's opinion is that I am king. I am king. And woman, what you're saying is to produce prodigious cacophony in this household. The vitriolic speech. You have lost sight of your perspicacity. If you understood and would rekindle your perspicacity, you would fall on your knees and kiss my ring, woman. And then I run in the bathroom and lock the door. Folks, designed to be king, designed to be queen, If I added that back to my belief system, I could not be a drug addict. I could not hate myself. I could only honor myself. The woman could not be a whore. The man could not be a whoremonger, reducing a person's body to a thing, a toy. Mattel, Hasbro, to be played with and discarded. Couldn't happen if I would go back to that basic belief system of created in the image of God. Something happened in Genesis 3. Raped is what I call it. Made man doubt the mercy of God, the love of God, the compassion of God. Made man doubt that God was his first love. And God had his best interest at heart. And that God didn't have to make him in the first place. And then said, you shall be as gods. You shall be as gods. Listen to that, folks. Lust of the flesh, eyes, pride of life. You see that? And then man, after looking at all of what God had done and pushing it out of his mind, did not respond to love and kindness. We talked about that this morning. You see that? Man's greatest problem is not the tragedy of tragedies of the human experience is love not responding to love in kind. And it started with man's relationship with God. And so, man is driven out of the Garden of Eden less than image of God. You see, you have the formal, then you have the natural image of God. Natural image is what? Holiness and righteousness. Formal image of God is things like aesthetic, having love for aesthetics, beautiful things. Where'd you get that from? Your dog never says, I want a red collar, not a pink one. They have it in the formal image of God. All right, rats, lions, tigers still eat their meat raw. We got to have it medium rare. We got to have sauce, this kind of sauce, that kind of sauce, salt, pepper, etc., etc. That's mankind. Genesis chapter 3, what man left was that basic image of God, the natural image of God. He gave up his kingship. He gave up his rulership. He gave up his fellowship with God. Now, the first thing that happens in Genesis chapter 3 is that when man sins and God comes to him, the first thing out of Adam's mouth, you see, Genesis chapter 2, they were naked and unashamed. Genesis chapter 2, they were one flesh. Amen? And Genesis chapter 3, God says, where art thou? What have you done? Have you eaten it? He said, the woman you gave me, God. So it's your fault because you gave it to me. And I'm blaming it on her. It's not my fault. I'm not responsible at all. That's what every drug addict says. And that's what a whole lot of members of the church say, okay? They don't take responsibility for their wrong and their mess up and blow up and all of their issues and mess. They don't take responsibility. And so basically, in sin, it divided Adam and Eve, man from man. And it divided what? Man from God. Chapter 4, you have what? The first murder is not between a stranger and somebody, but his own brother. Amen? The first murder. And so here we have, something's happened, folks. What's happened? Here is the big picture. Let me say this about big pictures, okay, or behind the scenes. I tried acting. Know that? As a preacher. Yeah. Okay, the picture Rainmaker with Danny Glover was the judge. Matt Damon was the lawyer who went down south and dealt with this situation, this person dying of some kind of disease, and the insurance wouldn't pay for the kind of operation he needed, and so Matt Damon was the lawyer fighting for the person who was dying, and the guy died and all. I was in that movie.